So let's see, without any ado, I'd like to ask, okay, now we're going to practice communication. How many of you struggle with having difficult conversations with people in your life? Good, good. Now, how many of you have no problems at all with important conversations? Perfect. I want to know what I'm dealing with so I don't stress the wrong things. Now, this conversation isn't just about your adult children. It's about anyone in your life. It could be a neighbor, a friend, a financial advisor, any advisor. The premises, concepts, and challenges are pretty much the same. Boy, I'd like to get one of those mics so I can hang around my neck. Okay, please pay attention. All right, here it is. This is my favorite slide. You know, whether you like it or not, people are discussing what to do about you when you're not around. When you're at home with friends, they're having these conversations over dinner. Sometimes with in-laws, sometimes not. The way it works is without knowledge, people create their own stories, imagining both the worst and best case scenarios. So, strangers may be planning your future care without family traditions, values, spirituality, or your input. I'll bet you there are people in this room right now who know their kids are conspiring to get them to move near them or into the same house as them. So, let's see if we can figure out how to get you control of where you live. My second favorite slide. If there's anybody here under 30, I know you don't know what this means, and I'm not going to tell you. What I'd like to point out is this is one method of communication. You know, you go over, you pick up the phone, make a phone call, the person on the other end says, okay, got it, right? We all do it all the time, don't we? And this is the way this works, right? No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. Now, we'll go to the next one. This is a little more reality here. For most communication, you have a sender, you have a message, a receiver, and then you've got feedback. And a story, right? Nobody seems to be agreeing with me. You're right, it isn't. I want to talk about feedback. We're getting feedback constantly, even if you don't realize it. Right now, I'm getting feedback from certain nods, certain smiles in the room, the energy in the room. And I want to tell you that we're always getting feedback, but we often miss the nonverbal cues. Sometimes tone reveals more than words. Understanding feedback is crucial because it shows that your message was clear. When communicating and you receive unexpected feedback, it's not your problem. It's not your fault. You can't control every dynamic, but you can anticipate and mitigate some challenges. The easiest way I can put this is every communication seminar, class, whatever I got, is they always say one thing, right? They go, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You have 2 ears for a reason. Use those. That's going to be your best way through this. Pay attention. Don't let your mind wander when you're having these conversations. Focus on the person that's receiving the information. This is more like what this concept of communication works like. I'd like to show the one that's the biggest problem, noise. Matter of fact, Daniel Kahneman co-authored a book titled Noise. It's a terrible book, but the point is that noise is an impediment to communication. Anything that obstructs a clear message. It could be distance, personality, behavior, social cues. It's the sender's responsibility to try to reduce this noise. The fact of the matter is, we often overlook this and just try to communicate. One of the 2 big pieces of this that I've learned about communication is what I call fields of experience. I don't know if any of you know this, but engineers are a pain in the ass to deal with, right? Some attorneys are a pain to deal with, and you put both those guys having a conversation, and it sounds like they're from two different planets, because that's the way they usually communicate. So when you're dealing with your kids, right, you're gonna think, I know how they work, I raised them. Well, they had a whole lot of other experiences when you weren't there that gives them more cognitive biases about what you're gonna talk about. Favorite one here is encoding and decoding. I'll give you an example. Anybody here knows what LOL means? What? Somebody said little old lady. That was funny. That was doggone funny. Well, no, it's not. Anybody else? Say that again? Laugh out loud. Or some people say lots of love. Right? That was the old one. This is my point. Don't use acronyms. You use an acronym and it's not going to work out for you. I'll give you a perfect example. I used to be an engineer. We'd sit around and somebody would say, well, the HVAC system goes over here. And some guy in the room would say, wait, the HVAC system doesn't go over there. Does anybody here know what HVAC stands for?
Not a clue. Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning.
That's it? You know, you were almost correct. I learned that stood for high voltage alternating current. In the same room with the same guys building a building, right? My favorite one now was one of my first emails. In the subject, it said, RIP. This is really great. This is great stuff, right? Couldn't wait to read that one. Well, RIP means Routing Information Protocol. Right. Now, this is another, if you take a class in sales or negotiation, things like this, they'll throw this at you. And boy, is this true. 55% of your impact is a result of how you look. I just want you to imagine for a minute, if I would have walked up here in shorts, flip-flops, and a tank top, your mind would probably be thinking a lot bit different now than it is. So when you have these conversations with people, and you're lying in a hospital bed, and you have IVs in you, all kind of stuff around the area, right? That's who they're dealing with in their head, right? You may think, I'm doing just fine, I'm gonna be out of here in 2 or 3 days, right? That's not who they're thinking that you are at that moment. 38% results from how you sound, and some of you have been with us for a long time knows how hard we've been working on the sound in this room. Because our minds wander. That's how we're built, okay? And 7% results from what you say. Anytime I've been with salespeople and just trying to help them to learn things, the only words out of their mouth were, give me the scripts, tell me what to say. It's not how it works. I mean, this is communication, right? I'm talking, hopefully you're picking some of this up. We'll check that out in a minute. But the last line, lack of intentional and direct communication results in assumptions and miscommunication. You can ask any human, any question, I'm telling you, they're going to give you an answer even if they don't know. That's the way that we're wired. Sender lacks clarity concerning the message. I'm going to start here shortly enforcing this idea that you've got to write this stuff down. Do not have this conversation flying by the seat of your pants. It won't happen, the information will be bad, and you're going to be really disgusted by the whole thing. The sender lacks confidence in what they're communicating. Again, that's noise, right? Most of you guys are going to have this conversation person to person, but you've got to make sure that your phone's not going off, you're not getting alarms from other things, because they'll stop people. If you stop that thought process, you got to start over. Another one was failure to encode the message effectively. Remember RIP. Excessive noise or interference, I guess I covered that. Messages delivered by ineffective or inappropriate channels. Listen, most of you are going to prefer to do this in person. It's harder to be put off, which is why many of these conversations happen around the holidays or family gatherings, like birthdays, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Now, the family may all be there, but should you have it when everyone's in the room? Maybe not. Sender fails to integrate feedback into future communication. If you're getting feedback, you're communicating. Don't drop it. Effective communication is the responsibility of the communicator. It's not about blaming others. If you're trying to communicate and it's not working, it's on you. This is going to get a little thicker now. I've gotten this, I can give you the books where I got all this stuff from, or I can just summarize it, and that's what this is. The first question that I guess all of us have, and that's what, you guys know that we're in the real estate business, right? This is where a majority of our conversations take place. How are they going to get there? How do you make that happen effectively? But in order to have that conversation, there's got to be some other conversations, right? Now, how can I manage my health? Well, most of us manage our health just fine, and some don't, and I'm going to talk about that in a future slide. Number 3, how will I cope with myself? This is a fun one. Say you've been married for 40, 50, 60, 70 years, and then you lose a spouse. The question in people's minds is, how do I cope, right? Well, it's also the questions in your kids' minds. What happens if dad passes away? What's mom going to do? What happens if mom passes away? What's dad's going to do? These conversations are taking place. One of the things they also want to know is, what do I need to do to fill in the gaps if that were to happen? What should I do about money? That's really, do I retire? Do I not retire? Do I invest my money? How do I manage my money with a budget? It's something that you need to do. You should have a finance person up here for that, and we will in future seminars. Number 5, what is the right way to say goodbye? That's really an end-of-life thing, and it's about legacy. We talked about legacy once in a previous seminar, and I wondered, what legacy do people leave when they become incompetent and make their family do all the work to decide what's best for them? I'm going to show you that here in a minute. Okay. This is fun. This is a clinical frailty scale, which is now used in healthcare. I wasn't going to have this show up, but we had people here in the last seminar that were doing home healthcare, and they all have one of these. It's how they figure out how close you are to a hospital. Now, the real reason, the fun part about this is sure, we range from very fit to terminally ill, but that's not the point. The point is you're going to be communicating from number 1 or number 2 position. Your kids are going to be creating from 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. That's the position that they're communicating from, right? Now, a little bit more of this. We all want to remain active while we age. However, 70% of the people will follow this trajectory. The key to peace of mind is having a solid contingency plan, which allows us to handle any crisis. Prevention is the key, as some 90-year-olds remain independent. However, terminal decline where health rapidly deteriorates can occur suddenly after a fall, a gradual stroke, or illness with no recovery expected. Hospice care becomes essential for the final days, which could last months or years. Now we're going to go to my least favorite slide. This comes out of 2 different books. I've been looking at this for a long time. Somebody explained it to me very simply. They said, one of these 4 is going to be yours. And that was a doctor. He said, we're going out one of those ways. The sudden decline from acute illness, that is car accident. It's a lot of similar to cancer. You're doing okay, you're functioning well, The further you get to here, the more time you're just laying in a bed and somebody's trying to keep you alive. The organ failure, yeah, I mean, that works too, but you all end up in the same place. And finally, the green line, frailty and dementia. These are the ones that kids pay a lot of attention to, because that's the one that you're going to be around for a while and need care. So, like, statistics show that everyone over 65 is going to need some help eventually, with a higher chance after 80. If people reach 80 in good health, they might live to be 100. However, after 80, health issues, frailty and falls become more common. Now, we made this subject a heavy topic, but who the heck wants to talk about it? At some point, we've got to. This isn't us in this room. This is us as a culture. Dying is bad. Nobody should do it. It should be. Dying is a fact of life, and we should do it well. Right now, we're not doing it well. Can I have the next slide? No, that's a little bit. This is a book that I highly recommend. Bobby, are you here? There was a lady that I talked to last time. I recommended before this seminar. Oh, there she is. And she made a good statement. She goes, yeah, I know that book. I'm not going to read it. And if you ever read it, you can understand why somebody's going to say that. But this is important. I mean, this is an MD who's still currently working as an MD, and shares some stuff with you that may be surprising. In the book, you know, really, the summary is how poorly we make end-of-life decisions and how unhelpful doctors and medical establishments are in this process. That guy still has to go to work every day. The number of geriatricians in the medical field in the United States has fallen steadily since 1996. So for those of you that are planning on making it to 90 and 100, you're not going to have a I don't think you're going to have a gerontologist. And I'll tell you why. The other reasons are incomes in geriatrics and adult primary care are among the lowest. And whether we admit it or not, this is a doctor saying that, a lot of doctors don't like to care for the elderly. This experiment of making mortality a medical experience is just decades old. It's young, and the evidence is failing. So, people can often live and manage a very long time, but eventually the losses accumulate to the point where life's daily requirements become more than we can physically or mentally manage on our own. Now, when I was in my 60s, I said, well, you haven't met me yet. Well, I'm in my 70s, and yes, old age met me. And it's going to continue to come. My point here is, read this. It's a tough read, but there's some pretty interesting stories in it, and there's some upshots, but it explains why we're where we're at today, and why that isn't going to change when I'm 80, late 90s maybe, but it's not going to be changing right away. Okay. Now this one, we've been in real estate for over 20 years. Now, and we've dealt with a lot of families. Some are amazing. Some are just easy to deal with. Some are great, and some are more difficult. But my point is here, and the reason that this is up here in your book is probably, I don't know all of you, but probably you're going to fit in one of these. And I'll explain which each one is now so you can write next to it which one is probably your family. We call it uninvolved, and that's the person we're talking to. They have a family, we know they have a family, but they're the decision makers, and their family is really uninvolved. This happens a lot. Now, we get supportive and available. They're really in the background, or we really don't see much of them or hear from much of them. A lot of times, we will have people leave the state, and now we've got to take care of the house, declutter decluttering and all that stuff. Supportive and actively involved. Now, these are people who are hands-on, they're in the mix. We're dealing with them in the conversation or in the transaction as well. Controlling and unavailable. Now, how can someone be controlling and unavailable? Well, they're from a distance usually. Distance can be across town, or the distance can be on the other side of the world. But no matter what we're talking about in that room, they're going to check with a family member, and ultimately the decision maker is not in that room. Controlling and actively involved. They are there in person and very controlling. A proxy decision maker by design. They were given the decision-making power by somebody. Usually that's in a crisis situation. Somebody's in the hospital, somebody died, and are unable to do it. So they have given that adult child permission to make decisions for them by power of attorney. Let's go to the next one. This is more fun for you. And these are actual things that people have said. I mean, we've met with some of you. You know, you sit down at the kitchen table or meet with them in the living room, and here they go. Are my parents expecting to move in with us? If not, can they afford one of those places? If not, are they going to expect to move in with us? That's pretty common, believe it or not. When my parents are gone, what are we going to do with all the stuff in their house? Are there junk haulers who just pick it up? It's going to take us forever to go through all that stuff. I think she puts money inside everything, so we can't just have people look for it. Here's one for some of my lady friends in the room. Mom's behavior has been really weird, like she isn't herself. She got lost coming from the store on Friday. Should we take the keys or just disable her car? Here's one. All my dad needs is popcorn, TV, dinners, and Coke. He fell twice last week. How should I approach the topic of assisted living? I wish my mom had more friends. She doesn't really get out, and she changes the subject when I ask her what she's been up to. Since Mom died, Dad's been dating a lot. He seems to have a new lady friend every week or two. I'm worried that they're only after his money. I have no idea if my parents own their own home, have loans on their cars, or have an insurance policy. They're so private about themselves. Mom remarried about 10 years ago. The house was his, but surely he made arrangements for her to live there if he dies before her, right? I think my parents want to be buried, but frankly, that's a waste. I plan to have him cremated. Then he looks up and says, it's not like they'll know. And then the last one. I haven't spoken to my siblings in a decade or more. I dread having to go back to the funeral. I'm not sure I will. That's enough of those. I'm going to have an attorney here in 4 weeks, or 2, right? This is critical, you guys. The hospitals make it difficult, and a lot of the care facilities make it difficult for people to see their residents. Does anybody know why that is?
HIPAA.
It's my words I hear in real estate all the time. Lawsuit. It's lawsuits. It was the caregiver that was filed suit against. It was the hospital. It's where the money was, right? Those are the people who were sued. If you don't have a power of attorney and you want me to come by and see you, I can go to the hospital. I can stand there at the desk. I can even put your voicemail in and say, see, she wants me here. Doesn't matter. If I'm not on that list, I can't see you. And if you're my mother, it's the same thing. Doesn't matter. You got to be on the list. That's why that power of attorney is important. I'm not an attorney. And I know that I do use attorneys when things are really critical. But this is one of those things, if for some reason you don't want to use an attorney, pencil your own out. You can go on the internet and find samples of it for free. You should have, if you don't have it now, you really should have it by the end of the month. Just that one thing. Otherwise, you're gonna really be on your own.
And our seminar next month is about the
And,
state.
and our seminar next month is gonna cover that in depth. And you're gonna hear an attorney cover it in depth. And the first question on my mind is, what's it gonna cost? You gotta stop that thought process, because the more work you do on your side, the less it's gonna cost. Put it together for them, so something they can read, right? They'll just give it to their paralegal, and you'll still have to pay for it, but at least you have other eyes on it. Life care plan. There's a great thing I read in a couple of the books. And the authors are saying, go talk to your kids about when you want their help and when you don't. Based on my experience, maybe you ought to talk to them about whether they want to help at all. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Now, life care planning is about discovery. I'm getting ready to finish. This is the most important piece of this whole thing. Life care planning is about discovering what's important to you, identifying obstacles, creating the energy to live your ideal life, and aligning your money to it. You say, I don't have $1 million. Well, you're still going to have to take whatever money it is. If it's I don't know, $100,000, right? You're still going to need to know that that's your limitation, right? Work with it. Don't work against it. To say, well, I'm not that important. Look out. I don't know who's been in a hospital recently, but those guys are very stringent about what they're going to do. And they already have a list of things to do to you or with you. If they don't have paperwork in front of them that says this is what this person wants, they already have a process. One of the things I didn't point out in Being Mortal, I found it very interesting. There's a chapter in the book where they talk about all these great things that you get later in life, right, to, in their opinion, improve your life. Some of those things actually decrease the amount of time you live. But that's on the list. You're gonna need your own list. All right, now, who will play what role and when? This usually falls to the oldest daughter. It can go other ways. But if you don't have an oldest daughter, you say, oh, I'm not going to worry about it. Well, what you want to do is at least consider who's going to make your life care plan work. If you say, I have no friends, I don't have anybody to put on here, you can go to the internet, look up a fiduciary. Most people think fiduciaries handle nothing but money. That's not true. You can give that fiduciary your life care plan. That fiduciary then has the authority to tell anybody, caregiver, any family member, if they're not on there, it's going to go the way that you planned it, hopefully, 10 years beforehand. It's not that we're going to do another one. We're going to go to Hawaii on vacation, Christmas, and we're going to work on our life care plan. Sounds a little weird, but it's really important, you guys, because if you've ever been in critical care, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, you're there, right? I mean, but so, right? They've got a plan. Have your own plan, right? I mean, I have one, do not resuscitate. When I put together my last plan, I know not to give my brother that authority. He's extremely religious, and he'll keep me alive on anything until the things stop working. I don't want to be there, right? I mean, if I'm going to lose my cognitive capabilities, I want to get out as soon as I can. And to that end, I just checked on how easy that is to do. And my research has taken me to, I need $50,000, and I got to fly to Switzerland. And I got to be there a couple weeks before. That's the best I've found so far. And I don't know whether any of you remember, we had people up here that were working, and I can't remember the name of it, but end-of-life programs. And,
Lifechoices.org.
yeah, thank you. And it was
Can you say that on the mic?
commission.
End-
Oh,
End of, say it after me. End of lifechoices.org.
endoflifechoices.org.
Did I say that right, Chris?
And it's, I know this is a tough subject, but this is stuff that, it took, doesn't seem like 8 weeks to put this together. Your life care plan shouldn't take any more than 4 weeks, right? Just doing it a little bit at a time. First thing, power of attorney. Second thing, life care plan. Because once you do it the first time, and say that you wanted to take a look at it because maybe you had a falling out with your daughter-in-law, who you picked for your end-of-life choices, you can get somebody's name on that, and easy, right? But at least you'll know where it is, and you can do that stuff. So look at it as a living document. Again, I'm not an attorney. Hopefully the attorney will mention that. Finances, insurance, banking, and budget. Listen, I know this is frightening. When I put mine together, I don't have $10 million that I can put down, right? To know that there's a chance, like we all believe, will I outlive my money? Write it out. Look at it, right? I mean, you're not going to be living the life of luxury if you have no money. But we do at least live in a society that can make sure that you at least have a roof over your head and you're fed. Find out when that is. Now, housing option at different stages of capability. Everybody wants to live in their house. Everybody's going to die in their house. That's what they say. That's not what statistics show. About 19% of people die in their homes. Right? A higher percentage die hospice, yada yada. But what you've got to do, put that life plan together, right, is when they're wheeling you out of that hospital, right? Maybe the doctor said, she's not going home. She's not well enough to go home. She needs care, right? Now, you sort of get stuck in and you can get stuck anywhere, really. But what I worry about is when you have a professional facility deciding where you're going to go. I got to experience that, and it's pretty damn scary. I mean, they're like, you're out of here, right? Oh, I'm out of here. I must be ready to go home. No, you're not. Right? And so it's those things. Fortunately, my wife was there, and they knew who she was, because then she could step in and say, no, he's coming home with me, right? But that's not what they do in the large hospitals. And again, you can put that in your life care plan. When I have lost my ability to do this, I don't want to have that. I don't want to have lost my ability to do this. I mean, mine has something in it right now that can't be done. I lose my cognitive faculties, and I want to be put to sleep. I can do that with my dog, but not me. Else. Anybody here dealing with Medicare Advantage? That can be pretty rough. You're going to have to find somebody that can help you with that. They require pre-authorizations and appeals. So even when you go to them and say, I'm not paying for that, or I want this, a lot of times you have to deal with that system. If you're incapacitated, you better find somebody else that can deal with that. Otherwise, yes, you're at the mercy of the hospital. Number 6, permission to address difficult but honest concerns. What kind of funeral do we want? Does anybody know? Is that anywhere where anybody can get it? Do you want to be on life support? I mean, do you want a DNR? Do not resuscitate. Depends. I sort of figured it out for him. When should you stop driving? What happens if cognitive impairment sets in? You're not going to know it. Hopefully somebody there is around you, even if you have a a fiduciary, and that agreement is the fiduciary shows up to see you at least every 90 days. The fiduciary can at least say, yeah, you shouldn't be alone. And at least you're taken care of, as opposed to hoping it works out. And the final one is, when is it time to relocate due to safety concerns? Okay. I went to the seminar the other day, and I want to share with you what I learned. When do you have some time to get together? That's a pretty decent setup. Your dad and I are making estate plans. I'd like to share with you what we're learning. It's an easy segue. When would be a good time for us to schedule a talk? I have some things that are important to me that I want to run by you. These are your tests. I would not do any of these if your children are estranged, like if you haven't talked to them in the past 10 years. Don't do this, right? What you want to do is, I mean, you can do some of this, but in any case, you're going to have your life care plan put together. Because when you can tie somebody down and get their attention for a minute, at least you can get that in front of them, right? By the way, just because your oldest daughter seems to take care of everything in the family, don't assume that she's going to be the one that you're going to put at the top of your life care list. Talk with her first. You can put the list together the way that you want it to be, and then get together with them and see if you got what you expected. At least feedback. These are pretty straightforward too. You may have to memorize them, but they're not impossible. And I really like the first one where it says we may be entering some uncharted territory in the future. No kidding, aren't we all? I mean, I thought it was going to be teaching organic chemistry when I was in my 70s. No, this is newer. And again, thoughts down on paper. Any way you'd like to do this is okay. These are just recommendations. And then the final one is my goal is to make life easier on both of you and me. So I've written down some things that I feel are important, and your feedback and questions are offered. I can't tell you, no, this book is not fun. Yes, this book is full of a whole bunch of information that you're not going to get in a lot of places. And it's not all negative. I mean, is death negative, or is it just a fact of life? Look at it like that. Finally, I have this one in here just to let everybody, I am so tired. People looking at me, and I mean, I just went through hand surgery and I wanted to slap somebody. Because right next to my name, 72. And everybody treated me like I was 75 or 80, right? But that's what they're working with. This is done by a marketer that said, hey, a guy that's 72, let's see what he's really doing, right? Not that everybody at 72 is the same. Nobody is, right? That's a fun book to read, to see all the marketeers that are struggling on how to deal with all the old people's money. But they can struggle with that as long as they want. What I like about it is, and I try to do it all the time, is I really don't care how old you are. I care about what you're doing. Right? I mean, to me, that's interesting. You know, where do you live? How long have you been here? It's the same stuff, right? I don't want to know that. And what are we going to say? I love this line. You're 82? Right? So when I go to the gym sometime, one of the games I play with the guys will come up to me and they'll say, so how old are you? I go, I just turned 84. So, I mean, that's the way we should all be doing this. Just have some fun with it. I mean, because we're all going to live longer, and a lot of us are going to live longer than we ever thought we were going to. That's what the medical profession is really hammered into. So, do your life care plan, put that off to the side, go have some fun. Oh, and I'd like to recognize Sandra too. Sandra, will you stand up so everybody can see who you are? She did 2 pages. And that was a lot of work. If that was up to me, you wouldn't have it. I just ran out of time. So there you go.
Both Sandra and Stephen, they've been such a blessing to Rick and I. Sandra has given us so much advice. One of the things that somebody asked about was the end of life. If you go to our Senior Living Education Series website, last December, we had a seminar on end of life choices and options. And so if you go under resources, that we have past videos. As you can see, we try to record the seminars. Some of the videos don't turn out, so we don't have all of our recordings there. But that was a really good seminar. So if you have questions, we had some really good speakers. So that's a really good resource for you. So Rick did a really good job. He did lots of research. But the hard part now for you guys is the homework. So we can't do that for you. You have to do that. And it's not easy, but it is such a blessing to those you leave behind. And I'll keep my story short so that we have the full half an hour for Q&A. But when my father passed away, he had the most rotten will in the world. It was done in Missouri. And all of us kids argued over everything, and he had no money anyway. He had a beer bar that we ended up signing over to his girlfriend. And but my mother, on the other hand, planned everything out. You know, she had power of attorney, she had her trust, she had everything. And I am the person that takes care of her finances. At first, I was the person that took care of everything. And I'm like, Mom, it's too much work for me. I'm still working full time. And Sharon loves doing the medical part. You know, she goes to doctor's appointments. And I'm like, let's have Sharon be the medical person. So Sharon is the health director person. Anything that has to do with Mom's health, you know, if they call me, talk to my sister Sharon. So, you know, and now my mom has Alzheimer's. She can't even make tea. She can't remember how to put water in the microwave. She still remembers our names. But she had everything spelled out. Mom wants to live forever. She, you know, she'll be put on life support. My sister Sharon firmly believes in that. So she's the perfect person to take care of my mom's health. I am so glad that she had all her affairs in order. And let me tell you, it is the best gift that you can leave anyone that you love or care for, whether it's family, friends, whoever it is. Take time to go through the life care portion. Take time to put a binder or a folder or a thing together of all of that information. I have all moms. I was doing her finances way before she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I was helping her with it. So we have all of that together. And it's easy. But if I had to go through like with my dad, forget it. So anyway, enough of my stories. Let's see what questions you guys have for Rick. Anybody? Yes. Let me bring this to you.
Okay, I don't have a question. Okay, I have a thing. Okay. I don't have a question, I have a thing. I'll leave here and I'll forget to turn on my damn phone. Turn on your phone as soon as you walk through that door. Maybe you guys could have a slide, but then like my sister trying to get a hold of me all week and it's like, oh,
Okay.
so just turn on your phone.
Okay. Communication. Okay.
I have quite a few relatives in the healthcare industry. First of all, that book is excellent. I read it like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I think it should be required reading for anyone who plans to leave this earth. The most important thing, the feedback that I get from healthcare providers is when you pick your medical power of attorney, one person, not two sisters, not three sisters, not 5 kids, not a husband and a team. They can hash it out, but the doctor needs one decision. The nurse needs one decision. It's really critical. I had the pleasure of taking care of a distant relative who was not mine even, from my former marriage. And I will never forget how my young daughter, she was a deaf mute, so she was up in Cedars, and she was trying to communicate. She did not want the tubes and the things. She was 80-something. And she was trying to communicate to my 8-year-old daughter. The frustration was very difficult, and it was very traumatic for my child. So the thing is, the more, and write everything down. I had nothing to refer to, so don't just talk about it. It needs to be in writing, because they'll forget.
Yeah, so I lost my mom about a year ago, and that's why I come to these seminars, and I have more of a comment. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal about health span, and lifespan, which are very different. Most people think that it's just their lifespan, but most people are now surviving cancer and living longer, so they reach a health span, and now there's as much as a 10-year gap between your lifespan, and that's why this seminar is so important, because what are you going to do those sickly years, which are getting longer in your life, and you have to plan. And so, like I said, the good news is people are living longer, but you have to prepare for this, and it was a pretty interesting article.
Christy, I had a comment to make. Sandra and I, neither one of us have kids, so we're kind of wondering who's going to be the executive of our will, who's going to take over the trust, and who's going to be our power of attorney. Now, we're each power of attorney for each other, for health and financial. What happens if we both die in a car accident? What happens when the last of us dies? So we chose a fiduciary who's great, and she will do all of that for us. So she'll make that medical decision. If one of us is incapacitated and the other one's not around. So that's a good way to go, we figured. I have a friend who was a ICU nurse here at Scripps Encinitas for 35 years. And she said, I can't tell you the number of times we've had a patient in here who's been in dire straits, and their family will come in and override what are clearly the wishes of the patient, especially if it's not written down.
Can I ask you how you chose your fiduciary? And how did you find?
Not to be too long a story, Sandra has some good friends that she thought very highly of, very smart. She and her husband researched fiduciaries themselves, interviewed 3 different people, and it wasn't until the 3rd one that they picked this person, so we picked that person too. And if you want to know who that is, I can tell you. See me later.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, Steve, I want to know, and in conjunction with that, the reason I'm choosing one, I do not want my daughter to have to make those decisions. She saw it with her mother-in-law, and it was torturous, so that's just my choice.
Hi, thank you for, this is so helpful. I have kids that think I'm going to live forever and be completely competent and take care of myself no matter what. That isn't real life, so I'm doing a lot of pre-work now that I'm healthy. And Rick, the one slide you left out to me, no, it was when you talked about the questions to ask for your life plan. You suggested much more than the 7 that you have printed here. And is there any way to get a copy of those questions?
I'll get them from him, and if you either if you'll leave a message on our the registration line, and either leave your email or your address, and I'll make sure that whoever wants that can get it, okay?
Would you prefer that to my business card?
Yes, please. Thanks, because I might lose your business card. I'm like packing up and everything. Okay, go ahead, Karen. Bill.
Well, one of the things that we've talked about here, this has not been a very pleasant subject, obviously. But one thing we seem to forget is we're talking about our kids. Well, what are your kids? Animals can be your kids too. And we're given 50%, at least I am, 50% of when my wife and I both pass away, to the Humane Society. And meanwhile, we have to take care of our dog and our cat. So we have to make sure you put those in your will too. It's something that you all should think about because they're a member of the family. We've been looking into retirement homes, and I have to laugh because some of them have strict rules. Very strict rules when it comes to pets. One of them was, a friend of mine went into a retirement home, so I called that retirement home, and they told me they have a very strict rule of 18 pounds per dog. I had to laugh. I said, well, my cat weighs that much. So, I mean, my dog weighs 50 to 70 pounds. There's no way we're gonna be able to get into that place. So you might wanna think about that a little bit too. Who's gonna take care of your animals?
So Bill, on the sheet that Sandra gave us, I ended up at the end of that, putting who's gonna take care of your pet, what's the feeding schedule, who's the vet. So we have a dog too. It's like, okay, that's like my fur baby.
I'm just gonna get on this because I have a microphone. But in the book, Being Mortal, there's a section in there where they're trying to make senior living a little bit more palatable. And one of the ways they do it is with animals. And there's an example in the book of somebody that's done this in Massachusetts, and I think they're up over 1,000 now, residences. But what they had, it was a doctor running the thing again. He goes, this is insane, this isn't working, right? All we have is we have a bunch of rules that people have to live by. And nobody lives by rules, right? And he brought in cats, dogs, parakeets, all kind of stuff, got the residents involved in their upkeep. And people were feeling a lot better. They were enjoying life a lot more. So what you brought up, tell me what place that was. I'm going to send them the book.
Okay, we have a question over here.
A comment that before my dad passed, he had lived in the Bay Area and joined as part of a planning for his aging, for my mom and me, the Memorial Society up there in Southern California. He moved down here and we were able to transfer his membership to the San Diego Memorial Society. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it gives you, you pay a one-time fee, and when I paid it for myself, it was $20, and it's not like an annual fee or anything. Very reasonable. It may have gone up a bit now, but it gives you participating funeral homes and people that, you know, that would do cremation and all. And they have pre-negotiated prices. The prices, I think, change as, you know, the years go on, but it's kind of like, it really helped us figure out who to use for my dad when he passed and he was cremated. We used Oceanside Mortuary, and they were the best, much better than the healthcare people in terms of when he passed. They came right away. And it was during the fires, an October fire, and the people from hospice couldn't get there, but the mortuary people did. And they explained things about carrying his ashes to his services when we had to do that on the plane, take his ashes and all the requirements. So I don't know, it really helped guide us. And I think when you're part of a member of this, you don't feel anxious about the pricing because it's pre-negotiated.
Legacy.
Hey, with your pets, I just know this through a friend. Some places will take in your pet if your children decide they don't want to keep the bird, the dog, or the cat, or they can't because of where they live. There are some rescues that'll take them in, and they just say one lifetime. But contact different places like Rancho Coastal, or I believe Helen Woodward has something, but not 100%. But just ask about pre-rescues, and that could put your mind at ease.
I just have a suggestion. If you don't know about frosted faces, I already have, the hospital has my advance directive, and on the advance directive, it says that I want my dog to go to Frosted Faces.
That's right, that.
They have senior dogs for senior people, and they help you pay for everything, and I have a friend who has one of their dogs, and when my dog passes, I'll be getting one from Frosted Faces. They're in Ramona, and I'm sure they have a website.
They are amazing. I meant to say that one too. I was trying to, what's the third one? They are great.
Okay, I think, Chrissy, we have one more question back here.
Okay, Karen's gonna get that. Anyone on this side?
I just have some information. I looked up these books. The Being Mortal book is available at the San Diego County Library, and there's an ebook version, but there's a 10-week wait. And the audio version, there's a 14-week wait. So I purchased it on Audible, because I like to listen to books. And then the Stage Not Age book, the library didn't seem to have in an electronic version or an Audible version, but it was available for free on Audible if you have a membership with that. And Audible is available through Amazon.
Yeah, that's more of a
Any more
market.
questions? Please take time to fill out the feedback forms and hand them into Chris as you're leaving. And I just wanted to thank you all for coming. This is a really kind of heavy topic and a tough topic. And so I commend you all for being here and taking the time to think about it and hopefully take action. And we'll stick around if you have questions afterwards. Sandra, do you have a question?
No, but if people understand about, if you want to practice talking about your plan and your dying with other people, there are death cafes both online and in person. And you can go to there. They ask you little questions for you to talk about in a nice, timed way with refreshments. And so you have to practice talking about this to other people before you talk to your family.
One of the things that I was going to mention here that I've shelved several times, if you're thinking about putting this together and you need some help, talk to somebody in the room. Because what I was really hoping to do was say, hey, what I'd like to do is next year at this time, have at least 4 or 5 of you up here talking about how easy it was to do and how you felt about actually getting it done.
Or the challenges you went through.
But at least you're helping somebody through it. Because I think, from what I'm told, what I've experienced, is it's not as onerous as it seems. You know, you're sitting here looking at this and go, well, I'm going to write the story of my death. No, you're not. I mean, not only that, but you're going to die anyhow. Take care of yourself. I mean, nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody knows exactly what you want. You do, right? So that's what life cares about.
So maybe before you would go and call, do the conversation start, don't do that till you have your plan in place. Know exactly what you want so that you can lead the conversation and not have them tell you what you want. Because that could happen. Because as adult children, we think, okay, we're going to take care of our parents. And all of a sudden we think, okay, our parents are like our kids now, we're going to have to take care of them. We're not. You know, yeah, we're seniors, but we don't want our kids taking care of us and telling us what we want. We know what we want. And so stick up for what you want. But know what you want and have a plan.
So maybe instead of asking somebody how old you are, what if we started asking them what stage are you in?
There are marketeers who actually have names next to stages. And it's kind of interesting. It's an interesting read, but you're right.
I did Meals on Wheels years ago, and there was a lady that was in her 80s delivering meals. And when I was delivering meals, there was a guy that was in his 50s that acted like he was in his 80s. So it's a stage, it's not an age. I mean, and all of us here are active, or our brains are working, you know, and we still have the ability to make our decisions for ourselves, so, you know, please do. Thank you again for having me.